Lightning like Steve McQueen, I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit, cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly, better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder, and I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and actually provide some insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to put the right information out there from the people who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many, many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag with me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. As you can see, I got a guest with me. I saw him down in the hotel lobby, and I was like, bro, I'm going live here in a little bit. You want to jump on? And as always, it's Mr. Anthony Petit in the flesh. Dude, what's going on?
I am so excited to be here with you live in Houston. It's going to be not only a great event, but an awesome show.
Well, dude, I think what's the best about this is this is the first time we're doing it in person, right? Like how many times? I mean, because this is, probably the third time that we've actually been around each other. First time you were out in when you came to Phoenix for the first time, and we hung out there. And then I think at one other event. But like, man, it's always a blast seeing you out here. But B, being able to do in-person interviews is these are slowly like becoming my favorite. Like I can't wait for you to come out to Phoenix next, because I got my studio that's getting built out. We're gonna do some special shit out there, man, and it's always fun.
I'm excited. I can't wait to go with you and be in the studio. I mean, honestly, this type of camaraderie that we have together is just amazing, because, you and I are friends first before just, being in business together and trucking. So,
well, dude, and that's exactly it too. And that's like the best part about all of this shit. You know what I mean? Is it's like you're out meeting like-minded people that care about trucking more than anything. Because again, like I say this all the time, I said this when you were on the show with me last time, man, is you are truck parking to me. Anthony Petit is truck parking, because when you first got in the game a while ago and building it up and your why behind it, like, man, that's what we need. We need more voices like that out there. And, being out here for Freight Fest, out here, Ramel Watley, he's got the Truck and Hustle podcast. He's putting this phenomenal event on. This is trucking, right? It's that grassroots grounds up style information that needs to be out there, because again, this is nothing against any of the large companies that are out there. Sure. Yeah. You look at like the JB Hunts of the world, man, that started as one truck, and like that's grown out, but like 95% of the industry is small business, and the Q1 results from somebody's 10K from their publicly, like that doesn't necessarily translate down to everyday business. Like when you and I were talking before we went live here, man, like there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills in 2 days or 30 days or whatever that looks like. And those are the real conversations and the strategies that we talk about, right? Because the market's the market, right? Like I can't control the market. You can't control the market, but what can you control? How you operate your business. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most about some of the speakers and attendees at this event is it's like, man, getting into that and talking about, hey, this is where things are going to go. But again, you got to focus on you. How can you improve as a company?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these attendees here at this event are small trucking businesses. They're owner operators. So this is going to be a good event. I mean, I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited just to talk to people, passerbys and go up to booths and whatnot. But I know for a fact that, like you said, Ramel, his business, he's going after the 95% of the market, which is really what makes up the trucking industry. It's not the 5%. It's not the big boys. It's not the white collar. It's the blue collars. It's the guys and the women, I should say, that make up this country and that are essentially the unsung heroes that we look forward to them hauling our freight every single day.
Dude, absolutely. Before we go any further, speaking about making money, VHub, vhubapp.com. We all need access to trailers. we all enjoy making money too, because that's what you get with VHub. You can jump on their VHub app and you can find trailers in their repositioning categories out there. So what they're working on, you guys, right now is they have Lafayette, Indiana, going down to Lake City, Florida. They got 20 drive-ins out there. It pays $420 US per trailer. They also have San Bernardino, California, going to Morris, Illinois. You get $900 US to do that. They have San Diego going to Springfield, Mass. You get $1,530 US to do that. And then they got some Canadian moves as well. They got Evansville, Wisconsin, going to Mississauga, Ontario for $500 Canadian. And then finally, they got Parkland, Florida, going to Milton, Ontario for $1,500 US. So hit them up, vhubapp.com. My man Zach Lonergan's already in the audience. He's saying howdy, y'all out there. Just do me a favor. Let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Tracy St. Clair watching over on YouTube. Good morning to you. Catherine Whitehouse, good morning. Britton, Wesson, Anthony Petit, the Italian Stallion. Let's go, baby.
Wild B.
Andrew Teal, the show comes with a complimentary continental breakfast. It does, Anthony. Andrew, I will make that breakfast for you. Corey Buchan, good morning, all. Yeah, dude. So you were recently out in DC, from what you were telling me. Doing a little bit of lobbying out there. What was that experience like? Because I know that the TIA, they did their policy forum where they do members fly into it. They meet, Congress and everything else. What was that experience like, seeing it from a legislative practice and standpoint? Because again, a lot of us are like, I'll bitch about the laws, right? Like, oh, how did this become a thing? Well, lobbying starts with lobbying. It gets on the docket and everything else. So like, what was that experience like? Well, like, what's the pulse in DC about trucking right now?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of variables, of course, to be a lobbyist, right? So I will preface and fully disclose that I'm not yet a lobbyist. I still have to register through the Senate and do all that. But it's definitely, to answer your question, DC is a different animal. It's a different beast. And, anything that you see, Chicago, Arizona, whatever, the cities are, they're focused on trucking the man or the woman behind the wheel. In DC, it's, as you said, it's legislative practices. It's a lot of paper. It's a lot of talking, but not as much action.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've noticed. Something that I want to be is, of course, I don't want to be a politician.
Yeah.
Like my goal is to be a lobbyist, and a lobbyist representing the truck drivers, representing truck parking, because as everybody knows, this business means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And why does it mean a lot to me? My family was in it. My late uncle, I should say, was a Teamster driver. So this is something I want to do. I'm passionate to make a difference in Washington. And just to close here with that, there is, and I'm not saying that the representatives, so you're talking about the House, you're talking about the Senate, are it's not like they don't know what they're talking about, because there's a lot of House of Representatives or congressmen or congresswomen that have, family that were truck drivers or they're legacy drivers or whatever the case may be. But a lot of them still don't really have that knowledge or that expertise in trucking. That's something that I know I can bring into the table.
Dude, and I talk about that often on this show and stuff, where it's like, man, we need people leading the charge that come from the industry, right? Like, we need people out there who are lobbying for the actual voices of the trucking community itself, based on what we go through out there in the industry, right? And I think like that is, I think it was like, because I broke down an article yesterday, for example, of just like typical bureaucratic bickering, where the FMCSA has a certain complaint process, and then the government affairs office doesn't like it because it's not good enough. And it's like, well, wait a second, how does that make our roads safer? How does that put more money back in the driver's pockets and everything else, when we're sitting here bickering about that? And I think like this is the importance of that. We need people who are from the industry out there lobbying on behalf of everybody in the industry, right? And not some people who are fat salaries that couldn't even tell you how many wheels were on an 18-wheeler, and have never picked up a load before. Like those are the people that, I look at my old man, for example, like probably good that he wasn't a lobbyist or he's not, that's not his forte, but like he came from the industry. He built his business from the ground up. He did all of that. Those are the voices that we need talking about how do we fix this industry, right? And because otherwise it's just going to be the same cycle every couple years. We're going to be talking about the same issues. But like, I think a lot of business owners out there, they're sick of the talk. Where is the action? Where are the results to help us navigate through the ever-changing landscape of this? Because like it's always another law that's going to make it harder on the little guy. And that's what it is it's like, I see the owner operators out there in the small trucking companies right now talking about like, oh, the ATA and the TCA don't give a shit about the little guy. They're out there lobbying for the large trucking companies and everything else. And I can't personally speak for anybody but Chris Jolly. I had Chris Spear on my podcast. He's the head of the ATA. I personally like the guy a lot. I think he does care a lot about the trucking industry. I really do. But I can see somebody's perspective coming from a small business, right? Where it's like, well, wait a second, why aren't we like a lot of the laws that are being lobbied right now benefit the 5% of the industry, right? It benefits the large companies, but it's like there's that trickle down effect that comes along with it, right? And I think that it's like a new set of problems that keep coming up. It's like the big thing right now is, switching to alternative energy sources, right? Getting rid, like the state of California is out there trying to ban combustion engines entirely. And the big problem with that is people are like, oh, but that's in California. But California is generally a springboard for other states to jump on board with their legislative policies and everything else. Look at
AB5.
I was gonna say, bro, look at AB5,
Right.
for example. They're trying to do that at the federal level right now, right? And again, I've stated my opinion on AB5. I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute onslaught against small business owners. And, again, to tie all the pieces together, if you look at what's going on with some of the union stuff right now, how do you bolster union numbers? Just cut out the small businesses, make them work for a large company, and then they're a union member. And that's like what again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not a pro-union guy at all. I've put my opinion out there. I see where they were a benefit a long time ago. But I'm about small business. I'm about free enterprise. I'm about the little guy coming in and cutting their teeth and being able to do something with their investment, right? So, but I think like at the end of the day, man, we need to be more aligned of how do we get on the docket, right? Like how do we get the problems and the concerns, like a truck parking, for example, actually put into effect in DC, right? And we need representatives like you out there from a business standpoint, but an actual understanding of how this affects the overall safety of the industry.
Yeah. Well, you talked about Chris Spear, and then there's I think his name Max Pugh or Charles Pugh. It's one of those. Anyways, he's I think he's a member OIDA, right? Yeah. So he, guys like himself, they're old school blue collar truckers. He's from New Jersey, so he's sitting on the stage, he's talking like this. He's got that real raspy, deep voice, and it's just it's such a contrast because it's not political at all.
Yeah,
he's not up there necessarily in a blue suit and a red tie. He's just speaking from his heart because he's a trucker. He's a truck driver at the end of the day. That's what he did first before he even joined OIDA. And then, of course, Chris Spear at ATA. So I agree with you. I think these guys are, they got trucker blood. And those are the type of people you need in Washington. I just was at TCA on Monday. That's what we were talking about, why I was down in Washington, D.C. And I was down with Dave Heller. He's another person, right?
Yeah.
Trucking guy, understands the market, understands the business, can speak to senators and congressmen, congresswomen. But, he's very knowledgeable in transportation. One thing that for those who don't know is the bipartisan bill, right?
Yeah.
That's in effect right now. It's a bipartisan bill. It's $1 trillion in spending right now. In addition to that, they have a subcategory, which is the Truck Safety Improvement Act, which has put about $755 million in grant funding right now, or spending, I should say, for truck parking.
Okay.
But here's the thing. This is where I believe that I can be of value. In terms of the spending. So $755 million will be allocated, or let's call them installments, across 4 years. So far, they've probably released or distributed around $80 million. They've only built maybe 15 to 20 truck parking locations.
Yeah.
So I immediately saw there was some sort of hole there. And I was trying to understand why there was that hole. And I noticed that as somebody who's been in this business for a while, in fact, it's my 8th year now, that I've noticed that you can build, and let's talk about, I'll just use an example, Dallas, Texas. Okay. You can build a full scale truck parking location that fits 400 truck parking spots for drivers. Those are, the big 75 by 12 dimension slots. So full 53-foot truck. With a maintenance shop, $7 million would be your total spending, because I have a personal friend who actually built it. And in Caldwell County in Texas, which is way outside of Dallas in the sub-market, now the government, what they do best is they hire subcontractors and developers to go out and build. So it's private developers building, in the private sector, I should say, building these truck parking locations, right? But there's a discrepancy. They spent $22.9 million on one location, a submarket, and the other guy that I know spent $7 million with a maintenance shop included for $7 million in a major market like Dallas, Texas. So there's a spending issue already that's happening. And the goal here from Mike Boss, which I think is another really, his dad was a truck driver, his grandfather was a truck driver, and he's a Republican at the 12th District of Illinois. He's pushing. He's one of the biggest guys or representatives who push this policy, right? But his goal is to add more truck parking. If you're spending that much money, $22.9 million on a sub-market location, you're not going to meet your goal, and you're not going to solve the problem.
Well, I mean, I think that kind of ties into a lot of reckless spending that goes on in DC with these funds that are allocated out there. Like, for as many agencies that there are overseeing this stuff, how does that happen, right? Like, how do we not have an actual plan that, again, like you're talking $7 million for 400 spots with a maintenance shop, with all of that right on site, $7 million. And we're, if we're looking at a $700 million allocation that's out there, that should be, I don't know, just quick math. That's like 100 lots that are like that nationwide out there. That's no, that's more than 40,000 trucking spots, parking spots.
Yeah, 40, 50,000.
Yeah. And okay, so like they had said, there's like a 1 spot to 11 trucks out there. That puts a serious dent in that. And that's only $750 million, right? And now I understand real estate markets are different across the country and everything else. But like, I look at Phoenix, for example, like there is so much vacant land that is right off of the I-10 in Phoenix, 10 miles outside of the actual city, right? Land probably goes for very cheap out there for that. So again, it's just like, how are we allocating that stuff and really building out the infrastructure? Because it's like, again, if we talk about this all the time, if you talk to actual truck drivers out there, parking is in their top 3 every single time. And if we're allocating our funds through, again, your tax dollars that are going to this stuff, have a voice, talk to your local legislators about this too. If you don't like what's going on, call your local representatives about this stuff, you guys, because if not, they're going to have that $22 million lot go up like you're discussing right there. And then what? Then all that, and then they're going to say, oh, the money's all gone. Then what? Then the problems, and then we're in another cycle of the exact same issues, and there's nobody actually fixing this stuff.
Yeah. The good thing about the bipartisan bill is bipartisan. So it's both parties. It's not, you're not Democratic only or Republican only. You're using both Democratic, Republican, Independent, et cetera. So that's a good thing, because there's a lot of weigh-in, but it's, as you just said, it's at the state level. So the state level, state legislation, so Department of Transportation, right? Those are the ones that are actually going in and saying, okay, these are the plans that we have. We want to make sure that we're hitting the Safety Improvement Act. Okay, so safety improvement means, so I'll break it down a little bit for people on here. They want not just to add traditional rest stop areas, right? Just all the rest stop areas that are already there, been existing for years and years on the side of the ramps. They want, the highway ramps, I should say. They want to add secure truck parking. Okay, but I've even come in and I'm going to put it like a little bookmark in here.
Yeah.
What I've noticed already is that you want to add secure truck parking. That's going to be an expense. So now you're going to have the fenced in perimeter. You're going to have a gate management system. You have to have in and out control access. You're going to have camera surveillance. All of that are operating costs. And how is that sustainable if you're spending 22.9 million just on the development of the property?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for all the operating costs and the maintenance and all that to come? So you have to look at the $755 million bipartisan, which is the part of the sub, they call it subcommittees and everything in Washington. But in any case, $755 million just doesn't seem like enough money to really solve the problem.
It's crazy to say that with a straight face and say 750 million isn't a lot of money, but it's not, right? If we're looking at that, because like in the Infrastructure Jobs Act, for example, there was almost $1 trillion that was earmarked for that, but only like 500 billion of that was to actual infrastructure projects and everything else. And, it's like, if you're looking at that, and then again, it's just like, why aren't we facelifting some of the old rest areas that are out there? Why aren't, like, those are already government or state controlled, right. Lots.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we expanding those, for example? Why aren't we putting, another 30, 40 truck spots on those, on existing lands? Because again, I'm like, I went to public school, so my math might be a little off here, but taking a lot and putting a couple million into that would probably be more a cost-effective option. And then you can expand that out there. How many rest? I mean, you probably don't even know this. I don't know this. How many rest areas are in the United States of America right now that have actual slots for truck parking on there? Why aren't we looking at the existing infrastructure, facelifting a lot of stuff as well? Because like, I feel like from a construction standpoint, a lot of these projects are 3 years out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
this could get done in a summer, right? Like you could bring excavators out there, you could get the lot out, you could add that in a summer, right? And then that's like you call it a short-term fix or whatever, but that helps us start to tackle this stuff as opposed to being years in advance here. And then what, like, I don't know, man. I think like there's just but again, before I get too far down this,
too deep, right?
This is why we need real people out there fighting for this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bringing these solutions to the table, because again, politicians are what they are. They got a lot of stuff on their plate. I'll give them as much credit as I possibly can here. All right. Which doesn't come very often, but I understand they don't just have one thing that they're worrying about every single day. So it's like, this is the importance of that stuff though. Like getting out there, talking to them, getting like, and again, like even having conversations at the event that we're going to be at today, right? Or this weekend out here at Freight Fest, talking to these drivers who are out there about parking, for an example, and how you can bring those even more candid feedback to DC to make sure that there's an actual solution to all of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100% on the right track. I mean, the other thing I wanted to add is that going back to the operating costs, right?
Yeah.
So is it sustainable? Because we were just talking about rest stops. How many rest stops areas? I actually really don't know the number, but I wish I did. How many rest stops do they plan on building as well?
Yeah.
And I'll get to another point in a second. But the operating costs kind of when I went to Washington on Monday, I sat down with Congressman Steve Womack's office.
Yep.
So I actually sat down with their legislative assistant. So what I'm learning in the lobbyist business is you're sitting down with legislative assistants opposed to the actual congressman or the senator. However, that is also a good thing because the legislative assistant is very powerful. They can help push policy as well. They push it up to the desk, and the desk is basically run by Steve Womack or whatever congressman or senator sitting there. And then they can help them kind of drive that motive. But back to the operating costs. So the operating costs for me, when I sat down, I said, I just don't understand how it can be sustainable with the 755 million or the 80 million they just pushed out recently. The issue there is if you're spending 22 million, or there was a location in Louisiana Parish, right? Like a small little Louisiana Parish, they spent 15 to 20 million just on one location there with like 250 spots. Or what you need to do, and I'm going to tie this in with what you're saying, but it needs to happen, yes, at the state level, which is technically already happening because that's how the bill is built. But state legislators must consult with private operators.
Yes.
That's going to be the number one. And if they go down their own, we have our contractors and there's money to be made here. It's not about who can take money as a kickback, in my opinion. I will just throw it out there. A lot of people don't like when I be super blunt, but
I do.
okay,
I
I
like you being
appreciate that.
blunt.
But the biggest, how to solve this problem, let's just make it like tie it up right here. The how to solve this problem is have state legislators to talk to private operators, and private operators to take in the funding, the spending, and build up the locations for them, because that's going to finally solve this problem.
Yeah. No, dude, you're right. You know, it's, I think that, you know, because again, we look at a lot of industry issues, for example, and you know, like we'll use the freight market, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The freight market, yes, does it affect people? Of course it does. I'm not ignorant, right? Like I own a business, I'm in the fucking day to day, but like I need to be a better operator. I got to look at my business, like what can I do to improve, right? Because I think like at a certain point in time, you need to realize that like no one's coming to save your business, right? No one's coming to do anything. You have to look as a business owner, you have to put your resources forward to improve. If there's something out there that's affecting your business that might be outside of your control, like a truck parking, for example, and having access to that stuff, you need to be more vocal with a lot of this, right? Going to social media and making a post out there doesn't do it, right? Like you need to call your local elected officials. If you don't like some of the laws that are being put out there and pushed, that's what you like, that's taking responsibility for your business, right? I will gladly do that on my behalf of my business. If I see that there's something that's coming down that I don't agree with, I will call Andy Biggs. He's my local congress. Go look up who your local congressmen or women are. Go, like it's, I forget what the website is, but you just Google who's my congressman and it will put you to the government website. Mine's Andy Biggs. He represents my district. I will call him tomorrow if I need to and voice my complaint if there is something that's coming in that he's going to possibly be a part of too, because that's like the problem with a lot of this. There's so many subcommittees, you know, but again, it's a good place to start, right? Call their office. I'm assuming they will point you in the right direction of the people that you need to talk to about that stuff. But again, taking responsibility for your business. If you don't like the way that things are going on right now, voice your opinion, put it out there. That's what the whole point of all of this stuff is you got to protect that asset, right? And again, back to the whole, what does the market have to do with this? What are you doing to become a better service provider in this market, right? Because things are going to change. I can't control that, whether it's a carrier market, broker market, shipper market. It's all out of my control, except for how my organization performs. And am I fighting for my organization out there in the overall sphere of everything? And that's what I want more people to realize in a lot of this is you do have a lot more control than you think. You really do. And it just comes, I don't have my phone near me, but it's all it is. Make that phone call. Call the people who are out there writing the laws that are affecting your business. You can't look at it as I'm just one person. I'm just one person too. I have a small business. Well, guess what? The United States is built on small business and it's survived on small business to this day.
Yes. And I just want to say one thing, and I'm just going to be direct to the audience here, but do not be afraid. As you said, do not be afraid. First of all, do not be afraid, because you can make change, and the congressman within your district, like Chris was saying, what was his name?
Andy Biggs.
Andy Biggs, right? So Chris has every right to go to Andy Biggs and say, this is what I want to see differently. Whether Andy Biggs decides to do anything with that or not, it's voice his opinion. The other thing is you need to reach out to your local congressman, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in America, and the most active you can be is right now.
Yes.
But besides that, being active, people get often very nervous. Like, well, who cares about my vote, or who cares about my opinion? Like, I'm just one person, and you know, whatever size the district is. Well, that's not true. Actually, these congressmen, congresswomen want you to reach out to them directly. This is because you're a constituent of them, right? And they're elected by you. You're the people that elect them into office. So it's your duty and your goal to go out there and make a difference.
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, as always, this always flies by, Anthony.
I know. Are we already at the time?
I know. We're already at the top of the hour here. And Yeah, this is going to be it. Tomorrow, you guys, is Q&A day. All right. I'm going to be going live early tomorrow. I'll put the invite out there, but obviously I'm out here in Houston. I want to go to the event. So I'm going to go live early because, as always, I go live no matter what, no matter where I am. As you can see, I got my mobile setup right here, you guys, and I'm going to do this every single day. And as always, if you guys got value in what you hear, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because at the end of the day, if you see value, your network's going to see value in it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. And now we really get